October 2019, myself and my colleague Matt were sent to Somalia by the MOD to make a film for the British Army. This is 48 hours behind the scenes in Somalia. We're in a tiny country called Djibouti, which I'd never heard of before we got here, and tomorrow we fly to Somalia.
So we landed pretty early this morning. We spent the day exploring Djibouti, which was good fun, great people.
Yeah, interesting because although it's a tiny country, there's quite a big military presence, and you've got bases from the US to Spain, Germany, Italy, France. It's a weird mix of ex-colonial France and kind of Africa.
So I guess it was the ideal place to kind of spend 24 hours before moving on to Mogadishu tomorrow morning.
You hear a lot about Somalia, you hear about it in the news, you hear about the pirates, you see it in movies like Black Hawk Down, Captain Phillips, you hear about kidnappings. And although we've both been to dangerous places, haven't we? We've both been to places like Afghanistan. It's a bit different.
Yeah, it is. You know, this is probably the most hostile country that we've both ever been to. How are you feeling?
Bit nervous, bit excited.
Yeah, me too. Really excited but nervous, but can't wait to get on the ground and see what it's like.
Yeah. So we've arrived here in Mogadishu. Matt's behind me, he's filming the planes come in. There's one actually now. And this is the Mogadishu airport compound. This is the international airport compound, which is guarded by the UN, and it's home to the UK compound, international compounds, and the UN compound. So behind the runway, you can see the whole city of Mogadishu. And when we got here, we were told by the British Army who are escorting us that this is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. And it would be unusual if a day went by where there wasn't some kind of assassination attempt or ID. As we were about to leave the airport, we heard gunshots not too far away. Maybe some kind of celebration somewhere in the city, or maybe something more sinister.
We hear gunfire on a daily basis from within this location, but generally it's either inter-clan violence or basically Somali National Army shooting at what they perceive as targets. So whilst we don't see regular fighting within our proximity, it does go on outside the four walls of the base.
So this is the UK compound here in Mogadishu, and it's all brand new, built within the last sort of year, which may be a bit of a statement of the long-term commitment here. After a quick tour around the compound, we got a briefing on what's happening in Somalia. Al-Shabab are an extremist group based in East Africa. They're aligned with Al-Qaida. The group describes itself as waging jihad against enemies of Islam. It's fighting in combat against the federal government of Somalia and the African Union mission to Somalia. That mission, AMISOM, is what the British Army are supporting in Somalia. AMISOM soldiers from across Africa are fighting in battles against Al-Shabaab, trying to push them back and secure important roads. The UN is acting as the framework nation, attempting to provide logistical support. We didn't film the briefing for security reasons, but halfway through, Al-Shabaab attacked a convoy in Mogadishu. What a welcome to Somalia.
We have people driving through Mogadishu city on a regular basis, 3-4 times a week on some occasions, and very occasionally there are incidents where we get caught up.
Some of the main challenges is establishing what exactly happened. So today there was an IED strike, and local Twitter accounts and local media immediately reported there were as many as 10 killed and 20 wounded. 30 minutes after that there were different reports saying it was only 1 killed and 2 wounded, and an hour after that it turns out that actually only 1 vehicle in the end was damaged. No casualties at all.
Direct attacks against a Western military convoy are fairly rare. The last one we had was 1st of October 2018, so almost a calendar year to the day of yesterday's very tragic incident. The good thing is the vehicle stood up to the explosion, and thankfully there were no casualties.
After filming some interviews, we headed down to watch the sun set over the airport compound. The next morning, we went back to the runway, this time to board a UN flight, and head deeper into Somalia. So we're just about to get on a flight up to Baidoa, which is west of here. The plane was a bit dated. Burn holes in the plastic, and somehow dead moths in between the windows.
In order to assist us prepare the cabin for takeoff, please ensure your seatbelts in the full upright position, tray table stowed, seatbelt securely fastened, all luggage securely stowed.
We took off over the ocean, getting enough altitude over the sea before flying over Mogadishu, so that no one could shoot at the aircraft. Baidoa is one of the biggest cities in Somalia, and it's where the British Army are training soldiers from the Somali National Army. These soldiers have been sent here so that they can be trained up and turned into a full, effective company. They're fed here once a day, and besides that, most don't get any other food.
Oh my God!
At the end of the course, the British Army will provide them with new boots and uniform. Until then, they have to make do with what they have. These Somali soldiers are 3 weeks into an 8-week training schedule before they go out and take the fight to Al-Shabab.
Yeah, if you talk to any of them, they'll talk about how they've been in the fight with Al-Shabab and how it's affected them. One of the soldiers on the last course died from an Al-Shabab attack, and so it affects them quite a lot here. And we see that on a day-to-day basis, especially when they talk about their experiences and where they've come from and what they've done.
Now we have got a good training, and now we know how to defeat with them.
One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job.
The determination these Somali soldiers have is inspiring. Training without food, with flip-flops instead of boots, and facing an equally determined enemy. Before we left, they sang Somalia's national anthem. Our flight back to Mogadishu was on a UN Hercules, and before the day's end, we climbed a guard tower that overlooked the city. Finally, we got a glimpse into the real Somalia.
So that was our trip to Somalia. Please tell us your thoughts in the comments below.
And let us know if you have any ideas of where we should go next.